And we're going to end things today with weather and Nebraska Extension Ag Climatologist Al Dutcher. Al, a new month is almost upon us. What's in the forecast?
Well, Troy, we actually are getting through the end of the month of May. We did see some decent precipitation across western Nebraska, southwest Nebraska early in the week. And then, of course, as that upper air low pivoted out of this central Rockies, almost due north up into the eastern portion of Montana, we started to see it turn to the right and basically move toward the Great Lakes. And we essentially had a zonal flow because of that blocking ridge in the southeast. That allowed a fairly strong wave to move through the region, particularly Wednesday night to Thursday morning. We've seen some tornadic activity in Kansas that spread into southwestern Nebraska. Unofficial reports right now, at least from the Storm Spotter Network, is that we had 8 confirmations in terms of tornadic activity. There may likely be more, depending on if we have some unaccounted for storm damage that needs to be assessed by the NWS. So it must a little bit more active weather than we've been accustomed to. This basically doubles what we've seen for the month so far. So we're starting to get fairly close to normal, at least for this time of the year, for where we should be in terms of tornadic activity. In terms of precipitation, the heaviest of it again fell across southern Nebraska and missed much of northeast Nebraska. So let's take a look at the upper miles and see if we may have some additional chances for precipitation. I'll draw your attention to the trough that was responsible for severe weather to our east. We have another trough that is moving across southern Canada that is going to bring a cooler conditions, particularly as we get to the second half of this weekend. But for overall today, it should be a fairly nice day as we have a slight southerly flow coming out of this Gulf. And with that moisture feed up into the western Nebraska may generate some thunderstorm activity during the evening hours. But as we get into tomorrow, we'll start to see that trough basically pivot down, and that'll allow some energy to move through the state as we get into Sunday and Monday. Low pressure stacks up in Texas. That's going to help to lift Gulf moisture up into the region. We start to see thunderstorm activity breaking out across the southern half of the state. And as we get into Monday, that trough will pivot over toward eastern Nebraska, and we will start to see some thunderstorm activity move into the remainder of the eastern part of the state as that low pressure over the Kansas City region will help to generate a fairly widespread convective complex that we might see some more severe weather across the southeastern 1/3 of the state. By Tuesday, that trough starts to deepen as it approaches the Great Lakes. That's going to pull some very cool conditions back into our region. Low pressure up in the arrowhead of Minnesota and low pressure down in Arkansas will keep the primary moisture to the east of us. So we should start to see clearing conditions and much cooler conditions as we will see highs primarily stuck in the 60s. And that trough basically will stay pretty much in place as we go into Wednesday with a low pressure over north central Iowa. Once again, that will help the Gulf moisture feed up into the eastern Corn Belt. There may be some backside precipitation with a weak wave moving through, but it looks like we'll basically cut this low off to some point on Thursday over the central Corn Belt, and that will keep us in the cooler conditions, at least in the eastern half of the state, with low pressure to our east over southern Michigan. That will keep most of the moisture well to our east, and we'll be into those clear skies. As we get into the day on Friday, basically we were going to start to see that low pivot over toward the Great Lakes, and we start to see high pressure building in. So we may see some warmer conditions, but there's a subtle wave that'll move on the back side of that trough that may generate some additional moisture as we have a low pressure over north central Kansas that's going to try to lift some of this moisture up. But again, this system is going to take a lot of that energy away. So overall, the best chances of moisture over this period will be this late this weekend into early next week, and most particularly over the eastern half of the state. As we go even farther out, we see below normal temperatures to our south, according to CPC, above normal to our west. And in terms of precipitation, the vast majority of precipitation shifts off to the east, although there are signs of another low developing in the Pacific Northwest for around the second week of June.